Welcome to Numbers Don't Lie, where we have insightful conversations about numbers. I'm very excited today because I'm having a conversation with a scientist. You know how science shapes our life, and we are always using something on a day-to-day basis that is informed by science. And I think looking at science and thinking about science, everything that we do, it's really science, because baking a cake is science, because you need to know the ingredients, you need to know how much you need to put, what time you need to put it on so that you can produce that cake. So it's a beautiful story. We're going to understand the numbers that goes to science. And I'm with Mashudu Nxumalo, who I'm very excited because I am her day one. She is my sister's daughter. So when she was born, I was already there and we grew up together. Just a side note so that you know. I think I can't not say because I'm very proud of her. It's like more like proud mom moment because she calls me Mama Milly, but please don't call me Mama Milly today. So Mashudu, tell us, at least as an icebreaker, any number that comes to your mind as a scientist that we should know about.
Thank you so much, Millie. It really feels really weird to call you Millie. But yeah, thank you so much. I really feel honored to be part of the podcast today. And as an icebreaker, the number I have in my mind is 360.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about
So
360.
360, it takes 360 degrees to draw a full circle. So it's an angle-based type of measurement where we measure the way two lines connect with each other. And so when two lines connect with each other, to make a full circle, you will have to draw it 360 degrees. And I think that's where my life right now, it resonates a lot with me right now, because my life is just turning into a full circle moment, so to say. And hence the word 360. For the full earth to roam around or basically go around the sun, it takes 360 degrees for it to go all around, for the sun and the whole earth in its full form to be in touch with the sun. And so the number for me is 360, and it's a beautiful number for me.
So I think for you as a listener, you should understand that it's a full cycle and you should actually align it to your life. Are you in the half cycle? Are you in the full cycle? Because sometimes we want to be in the full cycle. We don't understand where the cycle started. So you need to always look at that. But let's get to it. Tell me about who's Mashudu and a bit about your childhood, where day zero, if we're to talk about it in numbers, where did this story of Mashudu start?
So the story of Mashudu starts from my day zero. A young man living in a very poverty-stricken type of environment, driving all the way in a bakkie, seeking for a better future, where he went to do an undergraduate degree at the University of Limpopo. That's where my father went to change the trajectory of his life. Now, in the midst of that, my father saw a young woman wearing overalls, and I don't know how, passing down the street, holding a one live chicken, and he said, that is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. And that's where my journey began, when the two became one. And that is a beautiful story for me, because when I mention full circle, you have to know your beginning before you know who you are and where you're going. And so the beginning point and the end point, and an understanding of that creates the rhythm of your life and your life's purpose. So my parents, both of them, got married and studied at the University of Limpopo, and they did their degrees. And as life started beginning to have a young family in the space of higher education, they thought, you know what, we cannot leave the people that are behind us. And that's where they contributed to the society by taking in relative 6, as I can recall, I think, or 7 direct family members to come to the university and study for a better future. And so within these 7 individuals, there's 7 families with a better future because of the sacrifices my parents created, because I lived in an environment where, in as much as my parents were professionals in their right mind, we were always lived in a household where we were always sharing what we had. We were always taking someone in. We were always knowing that there is someone in our lives who is not a relative. It could be a relative, but it can also be a friend who is here studying to change the trajectory of their life. And so it has always been how I was raised to live a life of impact. And then these individuals that I talk about are people who are leaders in their own right, family men, family women who are now great in their professions because of the sacrifices that my parents made. And so from that, you can see that there are three things that I was raised that have shaped the person that I am. Number one, I love people. Number two, I love education and the power of education. And number three, life is all about impact. How do you make another person's life better by you being who you are and what you have?
So talking about education and how it impacted you. So tell me about your profession, how then you got to it, just to make someone sitting at home or listening to us understand the dots that connected from day one where your parents impacted you, I believe. I'm not sure. Like in your family, do you have siblings? Where are you? Are you first born? Are you last born? How does that impacted you? And then connecting that dot of education to where you are as a story of how then the numbers unfolded in your life.
Yes. As I dialed it back and say the two became one, I'm the firstborn daughter of my parents with 4 siblings. And in that household, we lived was a family of love and a family that believed in God. But emanating from that, Mashudu is first the daughter of the Most High God. She is a mother. She is a sister. She is a friend, and she's a daughter. So there is several caps already, 5 caps that I wear as Mashudu. And like I mentioned, I grew up in a loving family that poured their hearts out and really did indirectly and directly impact the way I viewed the power education has on changing one's life's trajectory. That is who I am. And because of that, we love school. Me and my sisters, I grew up very close to my sisters, and we loved school. I remember one day we would woke up an hour earlier than we anticipated because we just loved education. And so that made us excel in who we are at school. And then that's when the love of science emerged.
Okay, so tell me a bit, maybe short. I just needed 3 minute or 3 second story, I see, of how you got to be where you are. Tell me when you were in matric or when you were still saying, I'm choosing a career, what came to you and how did you get to university? And fast forward, what do you do now? So that we can get to the real story.
3 seconds. That's going to be difficult. But so I love science.
Okay.
The first time I watched an onion cell under the microscope, for me, that is where I loved science. In as much as I did very well in accounting, the numbers don't lie, of course. But I enjoyed science. It challenged me, challenged my mind. It made me inquisitive. And so I decided that I'm going to study medicine because by then, that was the only thing that I felt was aligned to the 3 things that I mentioned earlier on about loving people, making a difference, and the power of education. Little did I know that I will not make it to study medicine, but I am of the view that that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because redirection aligns you to your purpose. And so I studied microbiology till master's level, and still then when I thought I could do my PhD and go forward, but I thought there's life beyond just being in the lab. I need to do something that contributes to the society. And serendipitously, I managed to find myself in the technology transfer space.
Okay, so hold it right there before you get anywhere. Let's pay the bills. And we have Wansati products here. And Wansati product is a personal beauty care product that you can find to make yourself look beautiful, to make yourself smell beautiful. So we have here with me the inspired by fragrance, which is inspired by Scandal. So I just want you to spray it on yourself so that you get to tell us about the experience of Wansati. And Wansati also does diffusers for your home care, for the home to smell very nice.
This is lovely.
They smell very delicious. And we also have your body care when you're coming from work and you want to feel that relaxation. You know how you work so hard, you professionals. So you get yourself a range of body care. Find us on wansatibeauty.co.za. So please, let's get back to it. So you were saying you became a technology transfer officer. Tell us
Correct.
about what you do on your day-to-day, in your 24 hours or in your 8 hours of the day. What do you do? What is the technology transfer officer?
Simply defined, technology transfer is the process of translating research into products, services, right?
Yeah.
And so my day-to-day basis or my daily mission is to ensure that research translates into some form of usable product, service, or process that is valuable in an industry point of view, or it is beneficial to the community. And for me, that is the crux of what I do and the crux of why I enjoy what I do.
Okay.
Mainly because that I was a master's student, I know the amount of hours it takes to be an expert, to become a knowledgeable person in that or in that field. And so that what does there's an author who says that it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in something. And so I value the recognition that South African researchers put in those hours. And my main mission is to pinpoint how can I add value? How can we put value into the research they do?
Okay, so you're telling me about research, and sometimes when we're eating, for example, we're actually eating food that is based on research. And on a day-to-day basis, research is very critical in what we do. You can actually know, even when you're sick, you need someone who's knowledgeable. So how do your work link into a day-to-day impact in terms of understanding the impact that the research that you guys do has on our lives?
So science is the basis of life. You yourself as a human being are a component of science. You've got cells, you've got eyes, you've got proteins. Those are building blocks of your core of who you are. The way your nose looks like it's from your mother or your dad. So I would say that science is the building block of life to some extent.
Okay.
And so with the food, for example, for us to be able to just know maybe there's a change in terms of the wants and needs of the society. We live in an environment right now where groceries are expensive. And so as a scientist who's sitting in the lab, for example, a food scientist would have to be aware of the issues we are facing as a country and say, you know what, how can I create a product, for example, that can accommodate those struggling to make ends meet? And that's where a scientist identifies a problem and then by their virtue of the knowledge they have, create solutions. And so my role in the process of creating that solution through research, and that is what the essence of research is searching for knowledge. And it requires that you redo it over and over again until you find the solution. And so, for example, the food science example you've given, a food science will try to provide innovative, tasty as well. Can be tasty for another different market segment, but it can also cater to whatever problem that they identify. And my role is to provide, to assist the researchers to provide innovative solutions through their capabilities. And yeah, that's what I can say.
So then as an information technology or technology transfer officer, tell me what informs your work. Is it an act? Is it what really is that value that you add to people or the stakeholders that you work with?
That is a very good question. We have what we call is the IPR Act.
Okay.
It's the Intellectual Property Rights Act from Publicly Financed Research of 2008.
Okay.
Now that we're talking about
Yes.
numbers, the act came in effect on the 2nd of August in 2010.
All right.
And so that it means that you as a taxpayer contributing to funds for research, the government was saying, you know what, we're putting in funds into research, but we're not seeing it translate into society. We're not seeing the layman enjoying the benefits of how much you're putting into research.
Okay.
And so this IPR Act, the mandate or the objective of this act is to ensure that research coming from publicly funds, right? It's first identified, it is protected, it is commercialized for the benefit of the society. And that's the essence of why I have this profession that I have. And this is also basic what I can say is the IPR Act is only applicable to universities or what we refer to as higher education institutions and science councils since they receive funds from the government.
Okay, so maybe coming to that, now that you're saying it's higher education and universities, you work at the university, and how do you then, what is information property? Maybe let's just understand that.
Yes. So, as I mentioned that the IPR Act refers to intellectual property.
Okay.
Loosely defined, intellectual property is defined as whatever the creation of the mind. So whatever you conjecture in the mind or you create in your mind that you're able to create value from and protect it legally, that is intellectual property. I always make a joke that people think I'm in real estate, but that's not at all. I'm about property. So I'm in the mind business.
Okay.
And so that is intellectual property. And there are different forms of intellectual property.
All
We've
right.
got protectable intellectual property, but we also have non-protectable intellectual property. And so most people are well aware of protectable intellectual property. That refers to your patents, your trademarks, your designs. And so people are well familiar of patents, but there's also non-protectable IP, such as your know-how. And so, for example, know-how, if you know the KFC recipe, that is a know-how. You don't need the...
I wish I can get the
KFC
recipe.
And Coke, so there's different forms of IP. And so people don't know these types of IPs. And it's very good that you consult with people who are well knowledgeable about these things, because intellectual property is a tool. It's a tool. It's a way for you to protect yourself as a business, as an owner, so that you are incentivized for the creation you've created from your mind.
So from where I'm sitting, when you said intellectual property, I also thought about property. So what makes us as individuals not well aware about information, intellectual property and patents and trademarks, and like you said, you know how, what is that barrier that causes information gap?
I would say that it would be that we are a developing country, and obviously the concept is still developing in our country as well. Like I said, 2010, how long has it been now? But the other thing is, we always think it's something that people have to safeguard it. But when you remember that it's for the benefit, and so I think that the struggle that we have is just to demystify that it's not something that you need to guard and keep as a secret and keep it guard, but it actually accelerates innovation. It actually brings more improvement based on what you brought up. And so, for example, like a patent, you are basically disclosing to a country, because IP is territorial. So should you want to protect your IP in a specific country, you have to go to that country. You cannot, there's not such a thing as a worldwide IP or patent. And so people think that safeguarding will actually protect their interest, but it really doesn't. For example, from a business point of view, having IP, having registered IP, it gives you leverage when you need investment.
So then who says, let's say I'm sitting here and I feel like I have information that needs to be protected, to be patented. So give me an understanding between the difference between a patent and a trademark. Is there a difference, or how do I start? How do I know whether I need to trademark or I need to do a patent? as a normal individual, I'm baking nice cakes, and I think this cakes has a secret formula. I'm not sure whether it's a know-how, it's a patent, it's a trademark. Do I trademark the logo of that cake? I think there's just so many things that we don't know about these things. For example, I have one sati. I need one sati to be protected because there's so much research I've put on this product as a brand. So then how do I start that process?
I'm glad you mentioned one sati because one sati can be a very good example. Now, the most common registrable IP is a patent. So a patent can either be a product, like I said, a process, or some form of service that you disclose to that country, for example, South Africa. So that you disclose fully. You've got to disclose it fully for you to be able to gain monopoly. What do I mean by monopoly? We don't mean the gay monopoly, of course, but we mean that you have the right to use that product or process alone. Should someone want to use that, they will need to get your permission, your consent to use that. And now, for example, one sati, right? The recipe for this perfume scandal, well, scandalous. Scandal, for example, the recipe of scandal, should you want to patent this, you would have to fully disclose the contents of scandal. But however, it's not as easy as we mentioned to file a patent. For a patent to be granted, meaning now we're giving the rights, only you have it. Imagine having just this pink jersey I'm wearing. You're the only human being in the world who has that. That gives you incentive. And so with the recipe for the perfume, the patent therefore needs to be novel. So no one should actually know about this. So it needs to be a secret. This number 2, it needs to be inventive. So I, as a perfume maker, when I'm looking at the recipe of scandal, I will have to look and say, oh no, actually I can add 1 + 1. I can add this and that and actually can get it. So it needs to be inventive, but that's a very subjective requirement. And then the third one, it needs to be for industrial purpose. And of course, we have one sati. It is for industrial purpose. We're using it for commercial purposes. And so that is how a patent is granted. A trademark, however, beautiful as one sati's logo is, the logo itself, the mark, the name, it can be a trademark because it distinguishes it from the other well-known perfumes that already exist. So a trademark is, like I said, a symbol or a name that you gain rights over that no one has, so that it distinguishes you from your other competitors.
Like your identity.
I mean, for example, Apple are doing very well with their trademark. Actually, I think it has more worth as compared to the other processes and products they sell. Their brand, they've done so well to cultivate their brand or their trademark, so to say, to become Apple for what it is. And so that is what a trademark and a patent is. No, however, when a patent is not novel, then you can create it. I'll keep it as a secret rather, instead of letting everyone know. And hence that's why we have, Coca-Cola, my favorite, and all the other trade secrets that are around available, but are actually used for commercial purposes. However, the weakness with that is that people then, if someone has, the secret to Coca-Cola, they cannot, Coca-Cola cannot sue that person who has access to that information. So that's how I can simply explain intellectual property.
Okay, so then as a technology transfer officer, I want us after this podcast to understand exactly what you do. So what I'm getting is that you work within the universities because universities receive money or funded grants for research purposes. And this research then gets to be then made to be patented so that it benefits the community, right? It has value, right? Am I getting what you're doing correct?
Yes, you're correct. So we are making sure that the state funds translate into something that is innovative, into something that can benefit the economy, but also benefit the society.
All right.
And now with tech transfer, of course, we help researchers, from higher education institutions, as well as science councils. And so we cater to those individuals within those organizations. And And so the beauty of what we do, it also comes in numbers.
Okay.
It also comes in numbers.
Yes, tell me about those numbers, because I
It
get
also
excited
comes
when
in
it
numbers.
talks about numbers, because those numbers, we can follow them, we can analyze them, then we can translate them into value and see how they then impact our lives.
Yeah. So part of what we do is impact assessment to see how far have we made contribution. And so we do have numbers. There was a national survey that was done by the National Intellectual Property Management's Office. And the survey looked at how far has the technology transfer offices in the country, how far have they actually contributed in terms of numbers.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share a report from 2014 to 2018. And from those activities that we do on a daily basis as technology transfer officers, we were able to create more than 50 spin-out companies, to be exact, 55, which employed 320 people. And that it in itself shows the difference or the contribution we are making to the society. That is 300 and something jobs we never had before. And so those are 300 and something lives impacted, contributed. There is someone there making sure that their family is well fed.
So maybe just to get in there, it's like you get these researchers from research to jobs. And then they actually generated these numbers of jobs that you actually said. So that's what you mean. That's the value chain.
Correct. We are very lucky as a country. We've got very high research, and we've got a plethora, of good quality researchers, people who create knowledge, right? Basically, this is a knowledge business. We're creating knowledge. And also, how do we does that knowledge translate to impact society? This is bridging academia to society. The whole paradigm of universities is just for the elite. That's not happening in South Africa. We are making sure we are the middlemen, ensuring that academia comes forth in universities. And a case study, as simple case study, is a researcher creating a wheelchair for disabled, unemployed disabled young people to be able to play rugby. That in itself is a contribution to society. And like I mentioned, the creation of jobs as well, the economic development of the country is something that we also put in our day-to-day mission.
So then what I'm getting is the fact that what we then comprehend or we start as ideas. Obviously, once I started as an idea, I want to empower women and I'm going to use this vehicle. It's an idea. So how do you take that idea? Is it a research idea that is useful? How do you know that my idea, where I'm sitting, I'm a small business owner, I have this idea. How do I then know that this research idea I have is actually valuable and it can be commercialized?
Okay, that's a good question, Millie. And I will say that when researchers are there working, it doesn't have to be a lab. It could be actually reading, and they have a eureka moment, and they have proved their concept. I mean, you gave me the perfume, I smelled it. You've already proven the concept that it smells good. So when you've proved the concept, that's when you come to an office like ours and you come and disclose and let's say, listen, this is what I have. And we as technical transfer professionals, we are capable to review the market. Is there a need for this from a society point of view, also from an economic point of view, also from a consumer point of view? How will it meet the demands of the public? And so we will do our market research. We will do our intellectual property assessment to see what forms of intellectual property that we can use or employ to protect, safeguard the interest of the person that created it, as well as the owner, which could be the university or science council. For example, now with your perfume, there is several intellectual property that we can identify. I mentioned a patent. I mentioned the trademark. So we as technical transfer professionals will be able to identify what forms of intellectual property do we employ, but also how do we commercialize? What is the best way to commercialize it?
By the way, as we do the ad and we pay the bills, one side is trademarked.
Oh, that's great.
So yes,
Would you care to
what we're saying is really valuable, and we do have trademark in South Africa. We do trademarks through the company's CIPC, so everyone can do that. Obviously, I think trademark is easier. Patenting,
yes, get a trademark attorney, get a patent attorney. You're not Millie, so get a trademark attorney. I really do recommend that people to really look into the value of intellectual property in their business, and I really want to encourage SMMEs like yourself to really look at the value of IP in their businesses. Obviously, yes, in South Africa, if you want to file your intellectual property like your patent and trademark, CIPC is the best way to go. But should you not be able to do that, consult the professionals.
By the way, so now coming back to what you were saying, how accessible are these offices to the public? For example, you speaking about researchers, you are speaking about the university. As a small business owner, how accessible and how do I start to contact your office? Is it in every university? Yeah, just tell us more about that.
So as of 2018, I'm referring to that report again, more than half of the universities in the country had a technology transfer office. I will answer your first question with regards to who do we cater to. We cater to the researchers. It could be a student who's doing research. It could be a lecturer who's doing research as well. So we cater to those in terms of how do we translate what they are working on into some form of value. And then an interesting thing with the SMMEs, I'd like to mention that the act itself, when we are licensing, when we're leasing off this intellectual property, preference is given to companies in South Africa. And so I really would like to encourage SMMEs, should you be interested in working on emerging technologies.
Yes.
I mean, we are South Africa, for example, we've got a lot of medicinal plants that have a lot of applications. For example, come and connect with the Technology Transfer Office to see what is available that you can use to commercialize, you can use to contribute to the economic development of the country. The South African universities are a plethora of knowledge. And I cannot say this much, that we really need to collaborate with industry. And industry are SMMEs. SMMEs are the ones that are contributing majorly into the economic development. And it requires that partnership between us and the SMMEs. So I highly recommend that do get into contact with the Technology Transfer Office in your location and see what are the available technologies. Maybe you can license something there. Maybe there's something that you can work on. You can develop. You can get funding to develop it further so that it's market ready and addresses the needs of the South Africa, because we as South Africans, we are our own solutions. We are our own solution, and so it requires that partnership for us to do so. Yeah.
So then when you're talking about collaboration, and I'm thinking about numbers, how the number scale.
They don't lie.
It's really the fact that collaboration is multiplication, and we need to understand the fact that if we don't collaborate, we are actually not going to grow. So most of us, we are very scared when we have an idea. We're like, I don't want to share this idea because they're going to steal my idea. I think we just get so scared. And I always think, but if you don't share the idea, how are you going to know that this idea is going to impact people? And how are you going to know that this idea will multiply? Because then numbers don't lie. Indeed, multiplication is how we grow. And collaboration is how then we grow. So we need to learn to say 1 times 1 becomes 1. Sitting with that idea at home, thinking, I'm not going to tell anyone because this is so special. You are just not going to go anywhere because then you're not multiplying. But when you start saying 1 times 2, then now you are saying 2. 2 times 2, then it's now becoming 4. 4 times 4, it's now becoming 8. So you can see how numbers indeed are telling a story. So even with the story of your idea, wherever you are sitting and listening to us, it is a story of multiplication only if you can understand that you need to collaborate. You need to seek right experts like Mashudu and make sure that you understand. But after saying that, I'm a young person. I'm sitting at home. I'm really interested in this profession. I want to really get to understand how do I maneuver from grade 11. I'm Sobo, who is in grade 11.
Hi, Sobo.
I want to really get to this profession. Where do I start?
Okay. Thank you so much. I want to first address what you just said. It's very important that I agree with you. Entrepreneurs, we hoard our information. We hoard the ideas that we have. And it's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, like you mentioned. And so I would say that should you communicate with people, should you communicate with big companies and you want that collaboration, which is key to the improvement or to your success, have non-disclosure agreements with those companies.
Okay.
And it's very important that you safeguard yourself. So I'm okay with that. But also, holding it won't help you because think beyond that. Think beyond impact. And so thank you so much for your question about how I got myself here. For you to become a tenure transfer professional, you need a technical background.
Okay.
You need to have a STEM associated background. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So whatever form of STEM degree you have, I recommend that you just need to have a technical background. And then you then have to look at the opportunities that are available for you in terms of internships and any calls that the tenure transfer officers make. And so after you have that technical background, when you get that job at a tenure transfer office, you then have to capacitate yourself. And you can capacitate yourself through different ways. Number one, you can either do an LLB, which is a legal degree here in South Africa, because intellectual property is legally associated. When you need it's a legal field type of work, and so you can do an LLB. Or you can do a commercial associated degree to add on to the skills that we need, because we're identifying IP and protecting it, but also commercializing it. And so after doing a technical degree, you can either do that LLB degree that I mentioned or the commercial degree. And then after that, start looking for opportunities where you can actually apply those skills, because at the end of the day, when you look at researchers, you're going to be able to understand where they come from. I was there in the lab. I know how much, like I said, it takes to get there. And so I know when a disclosure is sent to me, I'm able to understand and be conscious of the technical information being presented to me. So you really need a technical background.
So then I get to meet a lot of young people in my professional life. Thank God for that. And sometimes I feel like they can be so impatient. They want to get there and they feel like, you know what, I just want to get there. How patient do you advise young people to in this profession, especially in your field? Is it like a course that they build up, and how long does it take for you to get there? I just want you to emphasize that.
Sure.
Numbers are very important.
Yeah, the numbers are really, and they don't lie. That's a very important question. I might add that it's a blessing that you're able to be in the sphere of influence for young people. And I really want to applaud you for that before I answer my question. So
thank you.
It's been 15 years for me to get here. For me to be where I am right now, I'm not there yet. I've only had 6 years of experience in this field. And for you to become an expert, like you referred to me, which it takes 10 years to be in my field, because every day you're meeting something new. It has taken me double the time to finish my master's. It's taken me 4 years to come up with something that is credible to become, to be a master's, to be referred to as a master's in microbiology. And so it has taken sweat. It has taken me, my supervisor, my master's supervisor used to say that you need to put bum glue. You know, put bum glue on your chair. If you're struggling to write, put bum glue on your chair and write. So it has taken long hours for me to be in the lab, make sure that my bacteria grows, make sure that it's giving me the results that it needs to give me, write the report. And then after that, then that's when you can be reviewed whether or not you are capable of being referred to or be conferred that degree. And so once you send in that paperwork, it comes back with red everywhere. And you're thinking, what's going on? But you go back and take your supervisor's comments and apply them. And that's why you're applying that knowledge. And so it has taken me 15 years to get where I am right now and be content in the space that I'm in. And what I want to say to young people, I know I was heartbroken when I didn't make it to medicine. I know I felt like the world was over. And so it has taken me this time of my life to realize that actually failure is redirection, and that beautiful transitions bring beautiful transformations. So I would say that do not rush yourself, pace yourself, be inquisitive, always be searching that there's something beyond than what is at face value.
And indeed, it becomes a 360.
It definitely becomes a 360.
Number of 360.
360 degrees.
Important.
Definitely.
To understand. And especially in your life journey, to know that this is where I am, this is where I am. Pace yourself and make sure that you don't give up and you're always working hard.
And put in the work. Put in the work. Put in the hours. Like I mentioned, the author said that for you to become an expert is 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours, if I remember. I hope I'm mentioning it right.
Which book is that?
Because is it Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers? I think he mentioned a specific term of hours. It takes 10,000 hours, if I'm correct. I hope I'm correct. Otherwise, someone correct me on the comment section, please. That it takes to be an expert. Yes. Nothing is a microwave, put it in for 2 minutes, like a 2-minute noodle. It takes hard work. It takes time, you to work on yourself as well for you to get where you are. Indeed, numbers don't lie.
So then when we look at mentorship, personal development, what are the role or what would you say were those roles or mentorship did to you if you really do have mentors? I don't know, but you can just tell us more about that in the field and also in your personal space where you are growing professionally and otherwise.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I was going to say that mentorship is when you seek guidance from someone who's more experienced on a specific part of your life. It can be spiritual, it can be physical, it can be professional, it can be mental. And so mentors exist in all forms of life. And I will say that there's direct and indirect mentors. You're my indirect mentor, for example. Just watching you do what you do on a daily basis. You mentor me by the way when I observe. So I would say that to many young people who want mentorship, sometimes mentorship doesn't need to be direct. It just needs you to observe. When you went to your K53 learners, you were observing left, right, center. It just requires you to observe. And so for me, mentorship has always been instrumental, because I will take my native language saying that, Bari, sho saseka wa kopela. Sho saseka wa kopela. So whatever.
You copy anything
beautiful. Yes, in direct translation. So when you know yourself as a person and you see excellence in another person, and it really, you feel that that what that person has, how they speak, or something that they do, you really would like to attain that. Observe. For me, that will be the observe, and that's when you have indirect mentors. And for me, I live in a field where it's an emerging field, and so people are very open to mentoring you should you require mentorship. And so within the indirect mentorship, for me, it would be the managers that I've had. For me, the one that has made so much impact has to be my first manager, Refile Mwatu, who I observed doing all of these things, and tech transfer. She gave me the meaning of the essence of tech transfer. And so then they are direct mentors, people who, like I said, you have seen the excellence that they portray, and you directly connect with them and say, listen, I want you to be my mentor. And now, I actually have a really good direct mentor that I have by the name of Miss Ompile Mudibela. And so mentorship has been fundamental, because they change your mind, they change how you view life, and they're able to guide you, because I always say they've gone the journey way before you, and they're able to say, hold back, do this, do that. And it has really been instrumental to who I am as a person today.
Okay. So shout out to all the mentors, the people that put themselves out there to mentor and guide other young people. And shout out to those people who comes through and say, I want to be mentored. It's also a good thing, because you realize you need to ask from those who came first. Like my language says, the road is
wow, that's beautiful.
Who came first. So let's not undermine the value of mentorship. But then in closing, and really to put this in the 360, the full cycle, this conversation, what would be your advice? What would be your closing remarks?
My advice would be first to researchers to have a good relationship with their technology transfer officers, to come when they feel like they have something worth of value to the society, or for economic some form of economic contribution, and to have a good close relationship in terms of to let the technology transfer officers know what they're working on. Sometimes they will think that they're not working on anything special, but we are trained to be able to look and have that broad overview of how can we translate that research into society. And so, like I say, South Africa, we are the solution. Number two, the SMMEs come to our offices and see what is around, what is available for you to make sure that we make this country a better one than it is.
So what I'll say as my closing remark is the fact that there is value in numbers, and those numbers can come from yourself as a researcher, from your idea, and just look at that and multiply it and make sure that you take it further and you don't sit with it at home, because there's someone out there like Mashudu in her office with her team and obviously different expertise that can help you. So get yourself that knowledge and make sure that you translate your property or your research into commercialized instrument or something that you can even use to bridge the gap which we have in our country that is known of unemployment. So we need to really work on the solution of employment, and maybe you are sitting with it. And I think OneSat is doing that great job, because I'm sure we have started for employee number one, and employee number two, and I think it grows like that. So don't undermine your knowledge, don't undermine your idea. It can bring forth value. There is value in research, there is value in ideas, and we need to multiply these values in numbers. So indeed, numbers never lie. And I just want to remind you, the purpose of this podcast is the fact that, Lord, help me number my days. Indeed, let's not forget that our days are numbered, and let's make the most out of our days, because we are given so much knowledge today. And thank you so much, Mashudu, for coming through. We have learned a lot from you, and well done on the job that you're doing. I'm very proud of you, as mom proud. So yeah, we're looking forward to even seeing you bloom and grow in the profession as you carry others with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure.